Hello, this is wmpyr here to talk about martial arts. And of course, this is just my opinion. This is just my own ideas. Okay, so the purpose of this video is not to, uh, for you and I to disagree. It is just information that if you can make useful for yourself, then great. And if you can't, then there's a million other YouTube videos out there that you could watch and try to benefit from. So, just please skip this one. Okay. So, yeah, it is my understanding that you go far back in the origin of martial arts, and it really comes down to boxing and wrestling. Some type of stand-up striking, which is like boxing, it could be kickboxing, and then some type of wrestling. And you could go as far back as to ancient Egypt, ancient Greek, and further back, right? We have found paintings and maybe even sculptures of this kind of stuff. And at some point they combined the two. So you had boxing and wrestling combined, and that was pancration. So that's pretty much your, ancestor of the sport of MMA that you see today. And it is my belief that this is all over the world. It's you could go everywhere from Asia to Europe to Africa to everywhere, that when human beings fought, the natural occurring thing was some type of boxing and some type of wrestling. Period. It's just a very, it's like it natural, it's in our DNA. This is what happens, kind of thing. And the training that they do for that is obviously for boxing or for wrestling. So the training is very direct. And, there is sparring and there is physical conditioning involved and whatnot. Okay, so then, we have what is oftentimes called the traditional martial arts, even though boxing and wrestling has been around for many centuries, maybe even longer than what is so-called traditional martial arts. But in the traditional martial arts, where we have something like karate or kung fu or even Escrima, Kali arnis, the Filipino martial arts. And then, you could even look at something like capoeira, aikido, jiu-jitsu, and I don't mean Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but the Japanese jiu-jitsu, some of the Korean styles like Hwarang-do or Kuksul Wan, Hapkido, that kind of stuff. Okay, so clearly there's a difference between those kinds of styles and the boxing and wrestling. And in this video, I kind of want to tackle into the why. Why is that? What's up with that? So, and the way that I view it, like I've studied Escrima for a long time, Escrima Kali arnis, and the way that I see it, I saw a lot of similarities with boxing and kickboxing and even wrestling. I saw a lot of similarities there, but I also saw a lot of differences. And it got to the point where I pretty much felt like Escrima, if I had to choose between boxing and wrestling, which one is it? I'd have to say that traditional Escrima is closer to boxing because it's a stand-up striking art. So if we're not using weapons and we're using our bare hands, it's stand-up striking. So it's much closer to boxing than it is wrestling, in my opinion. Okay, so that being said, um, you know, it is still pretty different from boxing. What exactly is it different? And that's where I was looking into. And for me, my own discoveries and my own opinion, Escrima started to feel at first like I said, I was looking for a lot of those similarities, and I was cross training and whatnot. But then I started finding that like Escrima was closer to karate. It felt a lot closer to karate than it did boxing. Okay, even though there's a lot of people that cross train with boxing in Escrima or boxing in Kali or Arnis. You see it in the Philippines where they're holding focus mitts, and the student is doing the jab, cross, a hook, and boxing punches integrated into the Filipino martial art training. Okay, so I felt that even though there's a close relationship there, that it was actually closer to karate and more different than boxing. I'm not saying it's not compatible because, like I said, they cross train a lot with Escrima and boxing, but the difference there was significant for me to the point where I felt like Escrima was negative boxing. So it is the absence of boxing. Okay. And then it started to make sense to me once I started thinking of it that way. Actually, I can say that Escrima, Kali Arnis, is negative MMA in a sense. It is the absence of boxing and wrestling. It doesn't have it in there. And why that makes sense is because in Filipino martial arts, they do have a separate style. They have Filipino dirty boxing and they have Filipino wrestling. So those are two different styles. So they have their own boxing, they have their own wrestling, and then they have Kali Escrima Arnis. So it kind of makes sense to me that it's separated, because it's a different style and they got it. They already have it. So if it was exactly the same, it's like, how do you call it? You got doubles and it's kind of redundant. So the Kali Escrima Arnis people were like, we're going to do something a little bit more different than those guys. All right. So that makes sense to me. But then I started thinking, why? Why? Because boxing and wrestling is so natural, and all over the world for thousands of years, that's what human beings do that. It seems like it's almost like it's in our DNA. It's not even a choice. It's not even a style thing. You can't say, oh, that's my style. No, that's what humans do kind of thing, Once again, just my opinion, right? So if that's the case, what's up with Kali Escrima Arnis? What's up with karate? What's up with kung fu? What's up with kalari? What's up with capoeira? Why are those so different? And for one, like if you take a look at capoeira and if you watch their movements, their body mechanics, that stuff is really good, body mechanics that you could see. It could be used in actual fighting. They have footwork. They have, angling the body out of the way. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there. But the way they're doing it is they're using a rhythm and then it's not full contact. So, they are, they're making it look like a dance. I get it. I understand all that. But it's not full contact. Okay. And believe me, I've talked to some capoeira people, and they've told me that when they do their practice, that I forgot the name, what it's called, but when they all get in a circle, and it's not sparring, but it's not a drill either. It's a little bit more free flow. So it's closer to sparring, but it's without contact. I've heard from people that some people play capoeira real nasty, and they purposely hurt you, step on your smash your fingers, and they and I've seen it on video on YouTube where I've seen some guys like, oh, that guy's a nasty player, that guy is not one to mess with, or he has kind of an attitude problem, a bad attitude, but he's walking around like, don't mess with me. And you can tell the other guys, they know it. And when they go with him, it's a little different, So I understand all that, but it's still not full contact, right? So that to me is the difference. And then the karate that I'm talking about, we're talking about like Okinawan karate, where the focus is more on the forms. When you focus more on the forms, then it's more like kung fu, right? If you have full contact karate like kyokushin, now it starts to look more like kickboxing. So kickboxing will fall into the category of boxing. So that's not what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about the more Okinawan style. And like I said, the Okinawan style focuses more on the forms. You look at Escrima, and we focus on the angles of attack in Heaven 6. Those are forms. They're a lot shorter, but they're still forms, right? So we're moving away from the full contact aspect. And yes, I know in Escrima Kali Arnis, they have where they wear like kendo masks and the full body armor, and they go at it with each other with the rattan sticks. Yes, I've seen that, but that's not what I'm talking about, okay? So when you look at these styles, the so-called traditional martial arts styles, where it is the absence of boxing and wrestling, where they don't do full contact training, I believe that is the key. They get criticized for that. They get criticized that, well, they don't train right because they don't do full contact. But then I look at the people that do full contact, and there's a lot of injuries, and people don't age well, and there's a lot of problems with the training that way. And even if you do train that way, you're not, there's no guarantee that you're going to become really, really, really good, because there's plenty of people that they just get hurt and they get messed up, and then other people step on them, and other fighters, become better and better, while this person just got, handed a severe loss and a severe beating. That doesn't necessarily make you better, okay? So, there are some problems with that. In other words, the reality is you may only get so far in full contact training. If I go up against someone that's 200 pounds, naturally, they're 200 pounds, and they're not fat, they're 200 pounds just ripped. And, they're taller than me, heavier than me, younger than me, and they've just been a superior athlete than me, period. I can't compete with that. So if I go to MMA and try to battle this guy, no matter how hard I train, it's just, even if I win, it's going to be brutal. And I have experienced that before. I've gone full contact against guys and I beat them, but I look like I lost because physically I'm black and blue, and I'm going, man, I don't want to do that again, So that is the reality. There's just only so far that you can go. And then even if you are at the pinnacle, like let's say you are an alpha male lion, even then the next one's coming up, and the next one. I mean, age is going to get you, injuries are going to get you. So, there's only so much that you can do with that. And what happens when you go up against another guy, that's just as alpha as you are, just as good of an athlete, just as tough, then what's going to happen, So we have to understand that in these kinds of situations here, where we're talking about a superior opponent, there are other ways to train. And that is where the traditional martial arts and Kali, Escrima, Arnis come into play, in my opinion. That's what's great about these styles, okay? I'm not saying that if you train in that, you could beat these guys. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I don't have to go train like that. But if I don't go train like that, then it's like, okay, I can't train MMA. Then what? I can't compete with that. Then what? I'm just going to get attacked on the street by someone that did do that kind of training, and then I'm just dead? No. I can do traditional martial arts training and I can still have a percentage, a possibility of making it difficult for them or surviving. I'm not saying I'm going to beat them or dominate them, but I'm saying I can have something, not zero, something. Okay. And there are things that I could do, like weapons that can equalize the situation, you know? So that to me makes the traditional martial arts very, very valuable. And if you look at the training, once again, people criticize them and say, yeah, these guys, they don't do full contact. That's the point. That is the point. They don't want to do full contact. Okay. Right now, me, at my age, 45, I don't want to do full contact. I've already done that, and I definitely don't want to do it anymore. I just value my health too much. There's no way that, the time for me to spar people full contact and then see what mistakes I made and how I could get better and, test myself against this guy, against that guy, that time is done for me. It's over. I've been through that and I'm done with it. So, now it's time to train differently, time to train more appropriate for my age. And the way that that's going to go is, if you look at the training, it's choreography training. It's like movie fighting in a way, because it's a choreography. It's okay. It's through drills and through set patterns. We're doing, you do this, then I'll do this, you do that, I'll do this, and we'll keep it in those parameters, but we'll try to up the speed, up the force. We'll do things here and there to try to make it a little bit more realistic. We'll change things up here and there, once again, to try to make it a little bit more realistic, but it's not full contact. So the injury risk is much, much smaller. And that is the beauty of it. And because of that, people of all ages, people from all different sizes, all different walks, can now train this. Whereas to going to an MMA gym, you better be kind of like a young buck, that's ready to climb the mountain. If you're not, you got no business in an MMA gym. So it's two different things. And so I hope you guys can see there is a place for traditional martial arts. And I'm glad we don't do full contact sparring. I do believe that if you're really serious about self-defense, you need that kind of experience. But at some point, you can't keep that going. It's just not worth risking your health that much, in my opinion. Okay. So now there are ways around the full contact sparring. Like maybe you might find some cool people, and when you guys spar, you guys don't have to go 110%. You guys aren't trying to take each other's heads off. Why? I mean, it's practice. It's just trying to, test things a little bit here and there, but nothing super serious on the line. Like, if I lose this, then it's life or death kind of thing. No, not like that, And the important thing, though, is you need to understand that if you do spar at like 50% or whatever, you have to understand that is not the real thing. You're sparring at 50% or you're sparring at way less. So the lessons learned there can't be taken super seriously. They have to be taken with a grain of salt, because real life's going to be a little bit more different. So that's one thing I've also noticed on YouTube, is some people, they're very nice to each other, which is great to see. It's great that they take care of each other and they spar, nicely towards each other, but don't mistake that for the real thing. And don't be like, man, you're so fast, you're so good, man. Oh, wow, I could see you, man, you're lethal in real life. No, you only sparred at 50%. How can you tell? How can you tell? If we spar 100% and I land a jab, this guy might start crying. I don't even know, you know. So until you actually do it, we don't know. So you cannot make those kinds of assumptions, you know, just because they look good in practice, it doesn't mean they're going to look good in real life. So you know, that is something you have to 100% keep in mind. But once again, I do like the possibility that traditional martial arts gives you to sharpen up your skills without great risk of injury and, you know, great risk of bodily harm. So I think that is genius. So, you know, I've said it to you guys before that when it comes down to it, martial arts is a simulation. It's not real. It wasn't meant to be real. We don't want it to be real. You want it to be real, you know, go find somebody, get into a fight with them, and you're going to see it's going to be boxing and wrestling. If weapons are involved, it's going to be boxing and wrestling with weapons. If there's multiple opponents, it's going to be multiple opponents with boxing and wrestling. That's what's going to happen, you know. Firearms are involved. It's firearms plus boxing and wrestling, if you even get that close. But yeah, so, you know, that can always be done in that sense. That you can always go do that. But there's a smarter way to train, and that is, believe it or not, is to train fake, is to train simulation, you know. So anyway, that's just my point of view here to give you guys a different point of view. Once again, if this can help you, great. If it doesn't, please just ignore the video. Go watch somebody else's video and see if that's more useful for you. I'm not here to argue with anyone. I'm just here to share something that has helped me out greatly to try to understand what I've been practicing, you know, for so long, and try to make sense out of it. And from this point of view, it makes a lot of sense to me, and I don't have any problem with either traditional martial arts or combat sports. And they work great for me. They both have served their purpose for me, and I enjoy both, and I still try to practice both to this day. And there's a third category, which I call the tactical, modern tactical stuff. And that includes like military styles and law enforcement and urban self-defense styles, rape defense styles, that kind of thing as well. But anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.